Pull up in motorcades. I got a show today. It's all I'm trying to do. Hustle and motivate.
What's up, guys? This is the Til You Collapse Podcast. I'm Brian. I'm your host, and I'm back recording an episode. I think, did we do one last week? Or no, it was 2 weeks ago.
No, it was last week.
Was it last week?
It was last week.
Okay. We're starting off the week right, guys. Memo, today I'm starting the first day of a fast.
You're fasting?
Again.
I thought you already were.
Huh?
I thought you already were.
What do you mean?
With how much you eat. You eat like nothing.
Oh, I got you. No. I'm actually doing, it's going to be at least 3 days. So what is that, 72 hours?
72 hours.
Yeah, so that's at least what I'm going to do, but I may do 5, I may do 7, depending on how I feel. So I'm at least doing now through
Wednesday.
Well, I think I ate at 6 o'clock last night.
Oh, that means you're going to be a grump butt. That's great. Yay.
So 6 o'clock last night to 6 o'clock tonight, 24 hours. So 6 is 6:48. So 6 p.m. on Wednesday, at least. But I may go longer. I've been wanting to do a week, so we'll see how I feel. Because usually around the 3rd day mark, like at that, I feel like I can keep going. So I may just do at least 5.
What? So not eating? Just water?
Just water, baby. Just water.
Oh, God. Good Lord. All right, I'm going to need you out of the office for a few days, all right?
Yeah. But it's just good. You guys, fasting is something I've done. I've always fasted, at least for last probably, I know it's kind of gotten more popular lately, but it's something I've done more like the last 3-4 years. I do it like every quarter, and I do at least 72 hours minimum, which is 3 days. I do just water, some electrolytes, but I've seen some people talk about bone broth and stuff like that. That's some calories and some protein, but I try to do really nothing but water and electrolytes. And it really physically and mentally, it's really good for you. If you've never done it, check it out. Check out the benefits from it. The health benefits from like 7 days are crazy. I've never made 7 days, but there's research about cancer and stuff like that if you do 7 days, it reduces your risk of cancer your whole life by like a obscene amount. It's crazy. So, and the whole the premise behind it is obviously mentally it challenges you, but really it triggers your body to rejuvenate itself and pushes out all the dead cells and it rejuvenates healthy cells. And it's something that your body does normally, but as you age and as you get older, it slows down, and this kind of re-kickstarts the process. So I know it's something tough, and we're so used to the society of eating and stuff like that, but I challenge all you guys listening to this podcast, try it. Try at least start with 24 hours and go from there. But we're so accustomed to food and everything's so easy, and so everything's like we don't even leave the house to eat. We don't cook. We don't do anything. Like you got to think back in the olden days, like when we were hunting and foraging and living to survive, like there'd be days you went without eating. Like if you didn't kill anything, you didn't find food. So just realize like this new age way of living and the most obese we've ever been and unhealthy we've ever been, there's a reason behind that. You really don't need as much food as you think you do. You're just accustomed to, since you've been born, you've been fed food 20 times a day, right? So that Memo would be grumpy as fuck, actually. Memo, you get so grumpy.
I
so
would
tired.
be. I need food.
You get so grumpy,
I'm a
so
growing
tired.
boy. I'm still a growing boy. I need food.
Guys, try. So what I'm going to talk about this podcast, it's been a little while. I think this is going to be a really impactful podcast at this time and age where we're at in a world where a lot of you guys are. I know a lot of us are struggling. Times are weird. We're going into election. A lot of you guys have started businesses or you have businesses that are struggling. So you're going to probably need this story. I'm going to talk about my origin story. I'm going to talk a little bit about me and who I am. It's been a couple of years since I did like a full encompassing from the start to kind of where I am in now. And I'm going to try to let you guys know about me, who I am, my story. I think it's important for you guys to know, any new listeners that haven't gone back a couple years or heard that story. So this is kind of my origin story, and I want to share it with you guys, and I want to go along the process. And I'm going to try to not draw it out because I feel like every time I talk about it and share it, I get better at it. So that's the main thing. So as far as where I started, the reason why I'm so passionate about fitness and why I've been working out for 28 years and why this is my passion and this is why I built an apparel company around fitness is because really it starts from when I was around 12, 13 years old. So when I was around 12, 13 years old, I was a real overweight kid. I was made fun of for my weight. I was really uncomfortable. As a kid, I don't know if this stems from my weight issues as a kid as well, but like I was a pretty big introvert. like a pretty shy as a kid. And basically at 12, 13 years old, I picked up Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, 800 pages, read it front to back, and really taught myself how to work out, how to eat, how to work out, bringing in knowledge at that age, 12, 13 years old. Back then, you got to remember, I'm 41 years old. Back then, there was no internet, there was no podcast, there was no social media, none of this shit that we have as tools nowadays to teach us. I literally was fed up for being overweight. I'm like, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I need to change my life. And I changed it on my own. My parents have never really been into health and fitness. It's not something they're into. It's not like I was taught to me. It was something I kind of just took the reins and took initiative and taught myself and read that book. And between, the ages of 13 till about 16, 17, I really transformed my life and my mind through fitness. I went from overweight to, muscular and confident, and really my life shifted and changed then. And that's why I'm so passionate about health and fitness. And that's why right when, my first job ever, I almost skipped my first job ever. I want to talk to you guys about that. My first job ever was selling lawnmowers, lawn and garden. And, through high school, I was a pretty decent student. I didn't really play any sports in high school. I'd go to dances and stuff like that. Like I went to my junior prom, went to my senior prom, but really I didn't even like I said, I was an introvert. So as far as girls and stuff like that, I really didn't even start getting into girls and messing around with girls till I was 16, 17 years old, which I feel like is, I don't know if that's young. I feel like that's older nowadays, the way things are. But back then, I don't know. It wasn't that young. But, high school, I finished with about a 3.0 GPA. So nothing crazy. I wasn't really too into school or whatnot. But then I got into, I wanted to get into health and fitness. I know that I changed my life physically and mentally through health and fitness. So I wanted to help other people feel that feeling that I felt, that confidence, that feeling of accomplishment, and just changing my life. And knowing how it feels when you physically are happy with yourself and mentally happy with yourself, I became a personal trainer. Like fitness was my passion at that point. I became a personal trainer at 18 years old. I started training at 24 Hour Fitness locally, and I started training, and I really, 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 really was passionate about training. I helped people lose 150 pounds, and that was really my calling, because I know how that felt from personally living it and going through it, and helping people with that feeling, helping people get to a place mentally and physically they'd never been, was very, very fulfilling. Not only was I training a lot, I was training like 40 to 50 hours a week, and each session was an hour. So anyone that knows about personal training, 40 to 50 hours of training a week is a lot of personal training. And not only was I a good personal trainer because I'd lived it and I was passionate about it and I actually cared about all my clients and cared about changing their life, but I was an amazing salesperson. Like I said, my first job was at 15 years old selling lawn and tractors and lawn and garden equipment at Sears Mall, at the Sunrise Mall locally. And I was doing a job with, back then I was 15, 16 years old, and the guys selling other tractors were 40, 50, 60 years old. That's what they were doing for a living. They were making six figures, commission sales, selling tractors. And I came in there and I was competing with them at a young age. So sales has always been in my blood. That's why when I started personal training, I think my top month of personal training, I sold almost $40,000 in personal training. But here's the thing, with personal training, I noticed there's either trainers that are really good at sales, they could sell and ask for the money. Or when I noticed for a lot of personal trainers, there was trainers that were really good at training, passionate about getting people results, very knowledgeable, book smart. They had all the certifications and they were crazy knowledge as far as the human body and all that kind of stuff. But they felt weird about asking for money. They really couldn't sell anything. They really couldn't present anything. So it's kind of like I would see one or the other, where I was the best blend of both. I had a good amount of knowledge, I had good amount of experience, and I cared about getting people's results, but I also could really close with the best of them and bring in a crazy amount of revenue. And I am Persian, and Italian, and we're just sales in our blood. I negotiate about everything. I sell everything to everybody. It's just what I grew up with my father, teaching and that kind of stuff. So I did that for a few years, probably about from 18 to about 24 24, 18 to 24. And then I made one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life. And this is what I want to share with you guys. You know, I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life, and I left my passion. I was doing my passion, and it was pretty, you know, as far as I was fulfilled spiritually, and I was fulfilled, like, as far as like I was loving what I was doing financially. You know, it wasn't the greatest. It wasn't that bad, but I was just kind of getting by, you know, not living a crazy life, but paying my bills. And you know, like I said, back then I had no kids, no family. It was just me, so I didn't have much crazy shit to do. But I left my passion to chase money. And if any of you guys are listening to this, and I've told you guys this before, I want to remind you, if you're just chasing the money, that you may make money quickly, and it may be something that comes faster, but there's not much longevity in that. It will fizzle out. It will die out, because when shit gets tough, or when time goes on and, you know, the money starts to die out, there's none of that passion to keep the fire going, basically. So, you know, I left fitness and I got into the mortgage industry, because back then it was like, you know, 2005, 2006, 2007, mortgage industry was crazy. I had friends making 7 figures with no college education, selling mortgages, crazy money. And I was like, holy shit, if you can do this, I'm a better salesperson than you. I need to do this shit. So I jumped into it kind of late. You know, I hung out a lot longer than a lot of my friends, because I had that passion behind it and I didn't want to leave it. And I got into the mortgage industry and I started doing mortgages. This is about 2007. And I started killing it. Like the first month I made 6 figures. I hadn't made 6 figures in a year before that. I'd never seen money like that. I've never felt money like that. I was like, holy shit. At that age, I was like, I have no responsibilities, no kids. And I had never had money like that. Like all of us, I thought it was going to be like that forever, you know? And my dad had always taught me, you know, my dad had a very safe mindset, old school mindset, like save, 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 don't spend any money, save everything, you know, typical immigrant mindset. You know, he immigrated over here from Iran in the 70s. And, you know, typical Persian, like, hey, you got to go to college, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be all that, you know, one of those professions. And, you know, don't spend any money, save all your money. Me, obviously, you know, you typically rebel against what your parents want for you, right? So I started making money like that, and I didn't have that same mindset. I had the mindset like, hey, let's spend this all. Let's buy a bunch of cars and live a crazy life, and the money's always going to be there, right? And then I was, you know, at this point, I had at that age, I'm currently with my wife at this point, and we had our first child. So I was 25 years old at this point. We had our first baby. Seems like yesterday. It's crazy. It's been almost 17 years since then. Shit, he's going to be 17 this year. It's crazy. And, you know, I had a newborn baby, and, you know, I was making this money and living this life and you know, figuring out becoming a dad and managing success and work and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, at this point, the real estate crash happened. So the real estate crash, as everyone knows, in 2008, there was a huge real estate crash, like a recession or whatnot. It happened, and I went from making a lot of money to zero, you know. And like I said, I was spending money like crazy, but I also had some savings as well. And I'm very stubborn, and I didn't really want to pivot. I wanted to, you know, I didn't know how long this recession would last or whatnot. So I tried to wait it out. You know, I tried to live off of my savings, and I kept trying to do mortgages and I kept trying to make money doing that, but it became impossible. No one could qualify. No one was doing them. And I hung in it probably too long. And I went through all my savings. And before I knew it, you know, me as a man, I'm old school. I have old school values and ethics. Like my pride is being a provider, being a protector, like those old school values and ethics. That's my pride. Like I love providing for my family and protecting my family. I take pride in that. That's the number one thing that's the most important for me. And at this point, you know, I had failed. I had failed as a husband. I'd failed as a father, provider. I wasn't providing at this point. Like I remember this story vividly. You know, I never forget it. I was hiding with my wife. We turned off all the lights in our house because the repo people were trying to find the car. I had it hidden in the garage, and they were looking for it. And there was like 3 guys circling my house. and it was night, and we turned off all the lights. So it was, we acted like no one was home, and they were flashing flashlights. I remember flashing flashlights in our windows, trying to look in our windows and see if anyone was home. And I was hiding in a dark room with my wife and my newborn baby. And I remember thinking, like, this is like the bottom. Like, I'd failed. I was $50,000 in credit card debt. They were coming to take my cars away. My credit score was fucked. It was like 400. I had no money, nowhere to go. They took my car, no car. And I remember thinking, like, man, you fucking failed. Like, these people are counting on you. And that feeling and that memory is ingrained in me. Like it's been about 15 years since that. 14 years since that. And I tell you what, it still seems like yesterday to me. It's still, when I think about it, it haunts me. And it's still what drives me to not fail now. Because I tell you what, I'm going to get into it. It's been a struggle lately, a lot. But I think back to this time a lot lately, because this is what, when I don't want to do things and I'm tired and I'm exhausted and I'm aggravated, that memory is kind of a chip on my shoulder. And I want you guys to think about, if you guys have ever been in a low spot like that, what your chip on your shoulder is, what drives you to keep going when the last thing you want to do is keep going, basically. So it was that moment then, and I'll never forget it. And I said, forget this. I'm getting back to my passion. I'm getting back to fitness. I'm never leaving fitness again, because I just love it, and that's why I still work 15-hour days, 7 days a week still, and it doesn't feel like work, because, I built something that's my own, and it has to do with my passion. So, like, I empower you guys to figure out a way to make money doing your passion, some sort of passion. Like, at this point, I have, a fitness apparel line. I'm not fashionable. I don't really like apparel, but I like the fitness portion of it, and that's kind of what drives my passion. So I got back into fitness. I started selling gym memberships. So I started at the lowest level. Hey, I'm the new guy. Hey, I'm selling gym memberships. Hey, I've just lost everything. I'm trying to rebuild my life here, and I just started selling gym memberships from the bottom. Like I said, I could sell anyone to anything. Sell anything to anyone. So my sales ability, my discipline, my work ethic, that's what's always really stood out. Like, I was the first one to get there, the last one to leave. I always did more than what was expected of me in any position, like any corporate position, regardless if you have your own business or you're working for a company. If you go above and beyond and you do the extra kind of things that most people don't do, you will get recognition. I promise you. If you work harder, if you work longer, if you work smarter, if you stand out, because there's not many people that work like that nowadays. They want to get in and out and do the bare minimum and go worry about, watching Netflix and whatever they can do on the weekends. If you stand out, you will get promoted. You will get recognized. You will stand out from the masses. I promise you that. And I did that. And real quickly, I got promoted within about 6 months. I was assistant manager. Within about a year, I was the general sales manager of my own gym. And I started a gym off Sunrise Boulevard. I started, as a sales manager. And as a sales general manager, you would manage sales teams as far as, people selling gym memberships, selling personal training. You would do sales calls. You would do sales training. You would, have daily meetings, all that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of fun for me. I love fitness. I love the gym environment. I love sales. And I was thriving. I got promoted to larger gyms. I kept, not only was I the top manager with the top teams, but I was a top individual performer in the company. So not only did I like to sell, I like to train to sell, and we were killing it. I got promoted to the bigger clubs, Sunrise to Natomas to Folsom, and these gyms for this company were 100,000 square feet plus, huge gyms, and anyone that's worked in gyms or sales, it can be fun, but that the hours are grueling. Any kind of high level sales job, I was working 7 to 7, 7 to 9, 7 days a week sometimes. And I was busting my ass, but I'm a sole provider. And during this time, I kept having more and more kids, obviously. I have 4 kids now, so I'm continuing to have kids just because I like to practice so much. The one thing was, like, I never saw my family. Like, I would leave when they were sleeping and I would get home after they were sleeping. And that was one thing, like, and we were still broke, in California, even though at that point I was making past 6 figures, a sole income with that many people in California is not doing it. Like, we were still barely making it by. You know, not only were we barely making it by, but I was missing my kids grow up, you know, and this is, you know, I worked for this company, you know, for about, 5 years, you know, 6 years. And then, you know, I'm doing this, I'm getting promoted, and I'm leveling up, and I'm making, some people consider over 6 figures good money, but I was broke still. And for me, you know, I was always been passionate about cars, like cars. I was a kid with posters of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsches and all these cars, you know, I'm not going to be able to drive these cars doing this. And then obviously that was my initial goal, was cars. And then I had a family, and then my goal became freedom. Like, how do I become free? Like, free from like the corporate rat race, you know, like living my life on my own terms. Like, if I want to work 20 hours today, I can work 20 hours a day. If I want to work 2 hours a day, I can work 2 hours a day. No one's going to tell me what to do. Freedom, basically, right? As entrepreneur, doing what you want to do when you want to do it. So I'm like, man, I got to figure this out, because this life is not, you know, as much as I'm still doing my passion, I'm having fun, making decent money, I'm still broke, and it wasn't progressing the way I wanted it. So about 10 years ago, it's coming up on 11 years here soon. About 10 and a half years ago, I remember thinking to myself, like, you know, I need to start a business. I need to figure out what I can do to make my own money. Like, I need to make more money than this. I need to be free. And I remember one of my employees, Eric, he was one of my good friends. He was half Persian like I am as well. So we connected with that. And he was a really, really talented salesperson, but he was just, let's face it, he was lazy. Like, a lot of times you see with talent, people rely on their talent, not just him in particular, but athletes and people like this, they rely on talent as opposed to effort and work. And because they don't have to work as hard to get the same result as someone that has to work really hard. That's why it's really magical when you get someone really with the work ethic and the talent. You combine those, work ethic plus talent, but fucking crazy shit happens, right? But anyways, I remember vividly when Eric told me he had this side hustle. He was like, I have a clothing brand. And I was like, what? You have a clothing brand? Like, what? And like I said, he was about 10 years younger than me. I'm like, you have a clothing brand? What does that even mean? You know, like tell me the ins and outs of this. What are you talking about, right? And he kind of told me, you know, the ins and outs of it a little bit and how easy it is to start, because apparel, here's the thing, apparel is one of the most saturated, most difficult businesses to start, it's very difficult. It's very saturated. Everybody has one. The reason why everyone has one, it's because it's very easy to start. There's a low cost to start. You just start your website. You can start with a handful of clothes, and you have a company, and you have a business, and something that's really kind of easy and low cost. So a lot of people think they're going to do it and sell millions of t-shirts. Well, the reality is it's a lot harder. It's such a competitive space, and really to start it and then to keep it going, and not only keep it progressing is another animal. So I remember him telling me that, and I'm like, shit, maybe I should get into apparel. Like, how do I get into something that's like fitness apparel, and you know, thinking about like, you know, how do I even do this? And I just remember I went home and I was like thinking, I was up all night because I really kind of lit a fire under my ass. And I'm like, I could start a fitness apparel line. Like, I can start t-shirts and stuff like that. And I was up all night. I was like, what am I going to fucking call this thing? What do I live by? What are my values and ethics? And like, what has got me to this point? Because like I said, at this point I was in, you know, crazy shape physically. I had competed in bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that, gotten myself down to 3% body fat, and, you know, working out has always been a passion of mine. And I was like, I really got myself to the physical and mental peak. And like, you know, I'm like, what can I do? Like, what can I call this? And like, what do I even do here? And I remember I thought of the name Til You Collapse. And Til You Collapse, you know, it's really how I live my life, and it's such an ingrained meaning behind that name. You know, it's not a normal apparel name. It's pretty like in your face. Like, you're like, Til You Collapse, you know, like that's pretty like intense, right? And it's meant to be intense because there's no joke behind it. Like, Til You Collapse is like, you know, it's a work ethic, it's a mindset, it's everything, right? It's like, if you go 100% till you collapse, like that's what that means. Like, how often do you leave it all out there? How often do you give 100% effort into everything you do? Like, everything you do. I'm talking about from your smallest interactions, from conversation with someone, to a meeting, to everything. Like, it's a representation of who you are. And you have goals physically, you have goals financially, you have goals mentally. And to reach those goals, you have to give 100% of yourself every single day. And how often are you doing that? And if that Till You Collapse mindset and work ethic is that right there. Like, you putting it all out there every single day, as much hustle and heart as you can. Leave it all out there. Maybe not literally till you collapse, but figuratively till you collapse. And not just for a day, not just for a week, not just for a month. Giving that kind of effort into everything you do for years is how you really become physically reach your physical goals, mentally reach your mental goals, financially reach your financial goals. And that's really the meaning behind Till You Collapse. When you wear my clothes, whether they be leggings or shirts like this shirt that says hustle and motivate, like, you're part of a family. Like, we do things that most people don't do. We're not normal. We're obsessive. We put the cart back. We react to weights. We do that kind of shit that most people don't do to get to places most people don't. And it's pretty self-explanatory. And I remember when I used to explain the company to people, like, they really fucked with that message, and they knew that I fucked with the message. I knew I represented the message behind my company because of who I was and where I got based on what I was, the cards I was dealt. And I remember I started with $300. I started with $300 10 and a half years ago. So any of you guys starting a company, any of you guys thinking about, this is my story and I want to tell you guys it because I need you guys to resonate with it wherever you are in your journey. It is possible. It's hard and it's not for most people. Don't forget that. It's hard and it's not for most people, because I'm going to tell you some more of my journey that would have fucking crumbled most of you guys. So, I started it. I made 25 t-shirts and 25 tank tops, and I started slinging them out of my garage and out of my trunk, and people were buying them. I designed them. At this point, for the first 4 years of my companies, I was every single position. I was designer, I was photographer, videographer, I was website designer, I was customer service, I was social media, you name it. It was a one-man show. That was it. And I didn't know how the fuck to do any of this, by the way. I just figured it out on my own. I just took action and figured it out. You guys have to just take action and figure it out. You guys, too much, you're overanalyzing things. You're waiting for the stars to align. It's never going to be like that. You got to just jump in and figure it out along the way, no matter what you do. And I started selling these shirts, and I designed them. They looked like shit. They looked like a kid designed them. I got some fucking template off of Google Images, and I deleted half of it to make it my own. And it was some skull. It said beast mode on it. And that was the first design on all the tank tops and t-shirts. We didn't even sell leggings. We just started with tank tops and t-shirts, and that was it. And people started buying them because they fucked with the message and they fucked with me, and it resonated. Till You Collapse, the meaning resonated with people and their goals. And it still does. And that's why if you start something, there has to be some realness behind it. It has to be something that you actually live and you actually represent. Because if you start something and you preach all this shit and you don't, people are going to see right through that. They're not going to support you, right? So guys, when you do anything different, when you're trying to achieve high goals and try to achieve different things than the norm, you're going to get a lot of criticism and a lot of hate from places you don't expect, from places you would never expect. And here's the thing. When you're going to go all in and try to be successful doing your own thing, you cannot give a fuck what any people think. You have to do things that most people don't do. Period. And when you do things people don't, can't even talk. When you do things that people most don't do, when you do things that most don't, it makes people feel insecure. They feel a certain type of way, especially once you reach some success and you maybe get a nicer house or nicer clothes or a different car. You start to actually reap the benefits of your hard work after years. It makes people feel a certain type of way because it makes them look in the mirror, and most people want more for themselves. Like deep down, they want a better life. They want more things. They want comfort from security of having extra money or whatever it may be, but they know they're not doing what's required to get those extra things, whether it be working harder, working smarter, doing, things that most people don't do. So then when they feel that way, they lash out at you, basically. So realize that once you decide to go all in and once you decide to live a life that most don't, you're going to be a small percentage of people. You're going to be in a small group, basically. And that most people aren't like that. And most people will look at that as far as anytime you're different, anytime you're acting different, you're being different, that you're not doing the norm, you stand out. So I promise you guys, if you're worried about that, you'll never make it doing this. You have to leave all those cares away. You cannot give a fuck what anyone thinks or says about you, because it will happen. I promise you it will happen. And this is right when I started. I didn't have any success at that point. I was barely paying my bills, you know, but I had enough success to jump full in and have the hope that it was going to continue to grow and continue to pay my bills. And I was leaving something that most people aspire to. Like, you're a top general manager at this gym making, you know, 6 figures. What are you thinking, right? So then I'm here to tell you, the next 3 years after I did this, the next 3 to 4 years, this is what would crush most people. And this is why it's not for most. Because for the next 3 to 4 years, you guys, I basically worked 15 to 20 hour days, and I didn't make enough money to pay my bills. I'm going to repeat myself. I worked 15 to 20 hour days, and I wasn't even making enough money to pay my basic necessities, my rent, my food bills, my insurance. I wasn't out there. I'm not talking about crazy bills and crazy money. I'm talking about the necessities to live, where for 3 years, I'm working my ass to the bone, chasing, building this passion, doing everything top to bottom, not knowing what the fuck I was doing, still trying to figure it out. And I was literally having to hustle, having to flip shit on the side, having to do things just to make enough money to pay my bills every month for years. Talk about stress. Talk about pressure. Talk about having nightmares and that chip on my shoulder I talk about, going back to that place I'd never been where I failed as a man and a provider. I was this close, like inches away from going back there multiple times over those 3 to 4 years. And that's what separates the winners from the people who are not cut for this type of life. Because I'm not talking about for a month or two. I'm not talking about for 6 months. I'm talking about that kind of stress, that kind of pressure, that kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, for 3 to 4 years, you guys. And this is like any kind of business, and this is like life. You have to pay your fucking dues. You can't get around for paying their dues. I talk about taking the stairs. Like, this is taking the stairs, right? I was taking the stairs for 3 to 4 years. There's no shortcuts. There's no elevators. There's no magic pill. Like, you got to pay your dues, and everybody's dues are different. And there's not a fucking little cookie cutter program where you do this for a year and you're going to reach success. You do this for 2 years. Some people I know pay their dues for a year and then their company pops. Some people I know that go 10 years before their company pops. It's different for everybody, and that's just the reality of it. But as long as you're doing something you're passionate about, you have a fucking vision and a mission, and you're going towards something, you got to just keep going. 1 foot in front of the other, 1 step after another, day after day. And some days are going to be wins and some days are going to be losses. But as long as you stack more wins for the days than losses, and you multiply that over months, over years, that's how you reach success. And the thing is, you know, I'm going along this way, and I remember the fourth year, we had our worst year ever. Worst year ever. We grossed like 80 grand. At this point, I have like 3 kids. I'm supporting 5 of us, and I just grossed 80 grand in California. You know how much money that is? I'm lucky if I brought home 30 to 40 grand in California, supporting that many people. You think I'm joking? Like, I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to lose it all again, right? And this is a pivotal point of the company. And I want you guys to listen to this. I was under the most stress, the most pressure, the worst time ever, right? Everyone's telling me, why don't you just go back? You can get another job making 6 figures in sales. Go back to sales. This isn't for you. Like, time to pack up and ship out. And I'm like, I knew in my mind, if I go back, yeah, I can make 6 figures. I can make a couple $100 grand selling anything to anyone all the time. I can always go back on my sales, my work ethic, and my sales ability. That's always going to be there. That's never going to change, right? And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm doubling down on this company. I'm doubling down on this dream. At this point, we had been running the company out of our house, garage, selling out of my car. And I'm like, I need to treat this like a real company. I need to separate this from our house. I need to get a warehouse, have an office and a warehouse. And this is a real company, and I'm really taking this seriously. And I looked at the products we were selling. I looked at kind of what we were doing. And I was like, I need to revamp this company. I need to revamp the products, revamp the website, revamp everything. And I just totally changed the products we're offering. I totally changed the price point. I totally changed everything about everything. And I moved into a new warehouse. And then I started doing, affiliate marketing. I started having people promote the product. And it was a whole new product, a whole new price point, it's almost like my company was totally revamped then. And it's a life cycle of a company. You have to realize that whatever you're doing as a company, it will work. But as times change or economies change or stuff changes, especially with fashion is hot, then it's not very quickly. And if the trends change, you have to adapt or you die. Adapt or die in anything, right? And I'm like, I adapted. And then really, we went from 80 grand to $1.1 million in like 6 months. Like $1.1 million in 6 months. I'd never seen money like that. I've never thought about money like that. At that point, I was still like, during that climb, I was still a sole employee, like doing 100, 200 grand a month as one employee, still doing everything. So that's when I started hiring people on. We started growing, we started expanding, and the growth was crazy. But I'm here to tell you guys, you will reach that tipping point as long as you don't quit. And here's the thing. There's a difference between not quitting and also changing up and not quitting. I'm not telling you to keep doing the same fucking thing over and over again and getting the same result. That's insanity. Don't keep doing that. If you're getting a shit result, don't keep doing the same thing over for years, getting the same shit result. Like, you shouldn't get a shit result. Let me be clear when I say this. I'm telling you not to quit, but I'm telling you to pivot and keep your mind open and know that if it's not working, you got to figure it out and make it work. So change your approach, change your offer, change your product, change anything you can to get something that works. And once it starts to work, lean more into that and lean more into what's working and do more of that. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying don't give up, basically, right? There's a difference there. And I need you guys to make sure you realize that difference. So the company's growing, the company's expanding, it's going great, And we just kept growing, kept blowing up, and we moved from that 900 square foot warehouse to the current warehouse we're in with 5,000 square foot. We moved into here about 4 or 5 years ago now, and we have an on-site gym and we have a full setup here, and we've continue to do it. And I tell you what, and I've talked to you guys about this before, ever since COVID was like our biggest year of revenue. And that was 2020, which is crazy. It was 4 years ago now. Fuck, it seems like yesterday, right? And COVID, we didn't close a day. We kept grinding. We were in here together, like, the world was shutting down, and we were in here as a little team grinding, still doing our thing. And I tell you what, ever since COVID, it's been downward for us. And I'm real and I'm raw about that. Like, the revenue's been dropping ever since then. Till last year, the revenue was less last year than it had been in prior years. Like, it was the lowest year since we had that initial burst. And that's just being real with you, because I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. And it's been fucking challenging, and we're in it right now. Like, we're having to pivot and do things we've never done due to things changing and the industry changing, the economy changing, the market changing. And that's life, you guys. Life and business, it can't always be an uphill trend. Yeah, you wish it could always be uphill, but that's not the reality of it. It's going to be like a jagged up, down, up, down, up, down. And you got to just, how you deal with it is what defines you. And the thing that's thankful that I've been through the ringer, I've been at the bottom. So like when I hit adversity like this, I have the grit to deal with it. I'm used to stress and pressure because it's all I've dealt with my whole life to build what I've built. So the thing is like, this is going to happen multiple times in your life, and we're adapting and we're changing. We've totally changed our product offering. We've changed our price point. We're changing the places we're offering and we're selling on. We talked about TikTok. We're doing what we need to do to bring in the revenue we need to bring to get going in the direction we need to get going. And that's the reality of life. You can't keep doing the same thing. Unfortunately, the world's totally different now. Ever since COVID, the economy is totally different. Inflation's crazy. Inflation is 3-to-1 beating out people's raises. So there's no way. How do you expect your customers they're making less money now than ever. So it makes sense. And the problem with the apparel industry is it's very competitive. And that's the reality. This is a fucking tough ass grind. And the thing is, there's more companies selling leggings now than ever. And the problem is, when we first started, like a lot of people compare us to like Lululemon and Aloe. We have an amazing product. I'll put our product up against anybody. Our product's amazing, and what our price point used to be was an amazing deal because it's going against these $120, $150 pairs of leggings for $69 is a steal, right? And that's why people ate it up and we kind of blew up. Well, the problem is the lower price offerings, anywhere from $20 to $40 was shit. Like you got what you paid for. It was really crappy quality. Well, nowadays at that lower price level, it's actually pretty good. It's actually it's decent quality. So the thing is like people are suffering and they're like, I got $80 left to my name. I need to fill up my gas tank. Oh, I need a new pair of leggings. I'm going to buy this pair for $30, not $60 because I need extra money to fill up my gas tank. And that's just a reality of a screenshot of the economy and what's happening. And we're feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. So we've pivoted, totally changed our price points. And we're really at a more competitive place where like we're at a lower price point and no one's offering our quality at the price point we're at. So that's kind of a new thing. We've just changed and kind of now our company's revamped again. Our company's rejuvenized. Like I told you, the first 5 years it kind of went through that change. Been 5 more years, it's kind of gone through a change, and it's been out of necessity. You have to adapt or die, and we're still doing that. And that's just a reality where we're at, you guys. And I love this shit, and it's definitely stressful and it's challenging, but that's life. And like I said, that's why this is not cut out for most people, because when adversity, stress, challenges, most people don't really respond good to that. It's all I've dealt with over these last 15 years. You know what I mean? And I love this shit. It fires me up. And I need you guys listening to this to realize that, don't compare yourself to other companies. You stop comparing yourself to companies you see on Instagram and companies you see because they've been in the game longer. They have time against you. You're starting from day one, or you're 1 year and you 2 years in. These companies have been around for 8, 10, 15 years. And that's something you can never compete with. You can never compete with time in the game. So realize your time is coming, but it takes you paying your dues, and it takes for you going through the paces, and it takes from you learning these experiences that help build the person you are to lead your company to the place it needs to get. And that's kind of a small snapshot on my story. I really want you guys to learn it and hear about it because that's who I am. I'm not anyone different now than I was when I was that guy who got all my cars repoed. You know what I mean? And I try to treat everyone how I want to be treated. And I try to do all this content and share all this stuff with you guys and share my story, and be vulnerable with you guys and real as possible with you guys because I want you to win. And if you don't hear real stories of real people like you winning, how can you ever believe it's possible? And that's what I try to aim to do with my content, my podcast, because I love seeing people win. I love people thrive and get their dream cars and dream houses, because the nice thing about this country is it's possible for all of us. Like you don't have to go to college for all these years and do, you can literally, especially the way technology is now, you could build a company from a cell phone, and it's easier than ever to start. I will say that it's easier ever to start, but as far as maintaining it, growing it, dealing with adversity and changes, and reaching a certain point of success is hard, but maintaining a point of success is even harder, and then getting to that next level. And that's kind of where we're at now, and it's hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it's what I signed up for. It's what I love. It's what I thrive off of. So guys, I hope you listening to this lights a fire in you. I hope you listening to this let you know what's possible. And I hope that you guys can resonate a little bit with my story and maybe where you are at your story and realize that you're on the way, man or woman. You know what I mean? You're on the way. Anyways, just want to share that with you guys. I appreciate you guys. When you share this, get the message out, listen to this. Love you guys. I'm out.
Pull up in motorcades. I got a show today. It's all I'm trying to do.